It's the 1990s. The biggest drug lord in the world is sitting inside a jacuzzi with some champagne in his hands. His chef is getting some food ready, so it's ready for lunchtime. The TV is showing a soccer game, which a team is playing that the drug lord is rooting for. The boss you're seeing in the jacuzzi has a hand in pretty much everything. The cocaine he's moving is either in the air, in the seas, or on the road. The operation he created is sending his cocaine everywhere. He gets out of the jacuzzi, gets dressed, and looks out the window. The view is very beautiful. He sees the nature of Colombia and he throws up an evil smile. Do you know why he smiles like this? Because this is a prison and he can't leave. Everybody knows Pablo Escobar. He's known as the king of cocaine. At that time, his net worth was around $30 billion. He was so famous back then that Hollywood company were looking for an excuse to make a movie or show about him. You could say he was a criminal from early on, but the crime that makes him a billionaire is cocaine and the unique idea he had. Because he was the first person to create an operation and send Colombian cocaine everywhere, especially the US. Since the 1970s, Pablo's goal was to take his coke and send it to the United States. And he knew he was gonna make big money if he was able to do that. 1970s music showed Pablo Escobar that this music promotes using cocaine and other drugs. He thought to himself that if he could sell his product in the US, he could start his own empire. But I'm talking about a drug empire. At the end of the 70s, Escobar was making around $3 million a month. And when we got to the 80s, the biggest cocaine user was the US. And the addicts and the high usage of cocaine caused Pablo Escobar to become a billionaire by the 1980s. In the 80s, Pablo Escobar was making the most money. The entire country was in his hands. Every politician was on his side. But when we get to the 1990s, one of the presidential candidates, which was named Luis Galan, was a big critic to Pablo Escobar. He would say all the bad things that happens to this country is because of Escobar. Pablo Escobar didn't have the patience for any of this. He immediately ordered to kill him. And he was assassinated. But after this, the US government stepped in. They told the Colombian government, what does this all mean? Is he running the country or are you guys running the country? The Colombian government is forced to say something. Escobar tells him to relax, I have a solution. You guys claim that we killed this person. I'll go to prison for 5 years. You guys stop talking to the US. There was no court in charge because Escobar was the judge himself. But he told the government, I'm not going to the prison you guys assign. I'll build my own prison and I'll hire my own people. He had so much power that the government couldn't say something. Escobar didn't have 4 walls in mind. He built a luxurious villa as a prison, and he hires every person in that facility. The people that worked in this building, they called it Hotel Escobar. Escobar was a prisoner in this place, but his operation was still very active. Escobar had a lot of enemies and he knew everybody wanted to kill him. And that is why he built this place in the base of the mountain, and he also kind of had his own army there. He had watchtowers everywhere that had strong binoculars watching out at every direction. His luxurious jail was built in a way that it didn't look like much from the outside, and it had cement walls. But when you got inside, you were faced with something beautiful. Just like every Colombian, Escobar loved soccer, and that is why he created his own soccer field in the prison. And the funny part is that in the 1991, he invited the Colombian national team to the prison to have dinner and play some soccer, and they accept and actually join Escobar. Just like we said, this place had one prisoner, and that was Escobar, and every person in that facility that did any job were Pablo's workers. You could say it was a 5-star hotel that had servants for one person and his guests. He would even invite his wife and kids to join him in prison. A lot of Colombian models would go in this prison to meet Pablo. But it seems like Escobar wasn't a fan of all that, and he claimed to be proud that he never cheated on his wife. But Pablo wasn't really a fan of playing too much. He was still thinking about expanding his cartel and basically make his drug empire even bigger. He was working around the clock in prison as well. Day and night, he was talking to his associates to see who got killed and who needs to be killed. The people that would get on his way, like the other cartels, had to be eliminated. Escobar spent 1 year in this prison, and the government was complaining again. And they say it doesn't work like that. You're still running your operation like you did when you were outside. You have to go to a real prison. And Escobar declined the offer and said no. In 1992, the Colombian government decided to take their army and surround his prison. But the spies knew that was happening, and they warned Escobar to bounce. Escobar's army stand in front of the Colombian army, but they can't do anything. One of them gets shot, and they all surrender. Escobar was on the run for 16 months, and he lived all around Colombia. At this moment, not only is the Colombian army, but the CIA and the DEA is looking for him all around Colombia. Escobar knew if they catch him, they're gonna take him to American prisons and he's gonna spend life in prison. That is why, when they had him surrounded in 1993, he attacked the police so he could die, because he didn't want to get caught and go to American prisons.